I'll read. What I'm going to go over today is an introduction and hopefully an explanation of value betting. We've obviously done match betting, we've done Betfair trading, and the next thing I'm be looking at to make money online is value betting. Now, the simplest way of explaining a value bet is where you're getting value from the bookie. So the price of an outcome is higher than it should be. Now, I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of how we recognise that, because you can get software to do that, and that's what this video is leading to. I'm halfway through a week's trial. In fact, I'm more than halfway through now, a week's trial of some value betting software, which I'm evaluating this week. I'm going to put something together this weekend, probably Sunday or Monday, and stick it out on YouTube. So that'll be the next video, going through which software I'm using and how I've been getting on with it, and how much profit I've made and how much I've lost. So I just want to explain the concept of value betting, just so when I do release the video showing the software, that people know what the software relates to and how things I'm talking about. I don't want to sort of re-explain everything when I shove that video out onto YouTube. So the best way I can describe it is really if we start by first of all, sorry to go primitive on you here. I'm just using Google Docs here to type something up as I go, just to explain things. But anyway, so flipping a coin will now everybody knows that a coin can either land on heads or tails, and the chances of that, the probability of that is 50%. So it could be 50. You've got 50% chance of being a head or 50% chance of being a tail. So that's your probability, which comes into it in value betting as well. I'm not sure if it's always explained, but it's not really the concept of value betting. The value betting is if you put £1 on heads and it came in heads, you'd expect to get £1 back, because it's you get £1 plus your £1, so you get £2 back and you get £1 profit. If you put £1 on heads and the outcome was tails, you'd get nothing back. You'd lose your stake basically. So you've lost £1. So you've got £1 loss. All right. So with that, a value bet would be where a bookie would give you. I know you can't place bets on flipping a coin and coming out heads or tails, but if you could, this example I'm giving you is because we actually know the probability and the value of flipping a head or a tail. We should get 50%, and we should get our stake back plus what we put in. It's like spinning black or red on a roulette, but then there's always the green zero there, at least one green zero, which is basically it's the banger's edge, the bookie's edge. And in fact, you'd have a bookie's edge on flipping a coin. You wouldn't get £1 back. You get something like 98p or 99p. So they'd take a penny of every pound of profit you've got there. So that's their edge basically. But I'm not going to get into that in any detail. What I want to look at is the actual value side of things. So you might have a bookie who's saying, right, if you want to get ahead of all the other bookies, because everybody's giving you £1 back on flipping ahead. They might say, well, I'll give you £1.02 back on flipping ahead. So okay, so then and I'll only give you like 98 pence back if it's a tail. So that in that instance, so if they're saying they could get £1.02 for a head and 98 pence for a tail, then you would typically back head all the time, because you know for a fact that if you flip a coin 100 times, 50 will be tails and 50 will be heads, there or thereabouts. It doesn't actually work like that. Just going on to that, if you do 10 flips, you'd expect 5 and 5. Yeah. If you do 100, you'd expect 50 and 50, and onwards. 500 and 500. However, the more times you flip a coin on a 50-50 chance, the more you'll end up closer to these numbers. So you might throw it 10 times, but chances are you won't get 5 and 5. You'll get something like 6 and 4, or you'll get 7 and 3, or if you're really unlucky, you get 8 and 2, or even 9 and 1. 9 and 1's unlikely, but you get 8 and 2, 7 and 3, and it becomes more and more likely as you get to the sort of average. But if you flip it 100 times, you're going to be a lot closer to 50 and 50, and if you flip it 1,000 times, you're going to be even closer to 500 and 500. And that's how value betting works. Basically, you're doing the volume game. So if you flip it 10,000 times, you're going to be even closer to 5,000. It's not going to be that far out, and the more times you flip it, the closer it's going to get to that sort of centre point that you're looking at. And that's how you do the value betting. It's based on volume. But going back to the this part here, this is value basically. We know that's value because we should only be getting £1 back, but this bookie is giving us £1.2 back. So you wouldn't back on tails. You would back on heads, because if you did win 50, if you did flip it 100 times and you won 50, you'd be getting £51.2 pences instead of 50.98 pences. And I'm only using example numbers here, obviously, but that's how it works. So that's what's called the sort of value, and I've seen it called, I call it overvaluation, because that's what the software I'm evaluating is calling it. So overvaluation there is if they're giving you £1.2 back instead of just £1, that's 2%. So the overvaluation is 2%. Well, the probability is also a factor. It's not really, I've never seen it mentioned as part of value betting. Value betting is just a value here. But I've also been looking at the probability as well, because if the probability is higher than it should be as well, or the probability is high and you get an overvalued bet, you want to be, there's no point putting an overvalued bet on something that's like 100 to 1. Like if a horse is 100 to 1 and the bookie's going to give you £102 if it wins, then that is still 2%, but it's not got a very good chance of winning. If it's 100 to 1 to win a race, there might be 20 or 30 horses in the race. It's obviously a donkey because it's 100 to 1. So you've definitely got to consider the probability as well. I'd rather put my money on flipping a coin and getting £1 back, because at least we know that's 50% probability. I've got 50% chance of winning. So what I've been looking at is overvaluation of greater than 2%, and higher the better. I mean, obviously, if you can get a value bet of over 5 or even 10%, then great, because then if you do win, then you're actually winning a lot more than what you should be. And also, you're looking for at least 50% probability, because you're going to win half and lose half on average, especially when you get the higher volumes. Even then, I'd probably go higher. I think some people actually go lower as well. They'll go down to 45 because of the sort of the valuation. If the valuation's higher, they'll reduce the probability. If the valuation's low, they'll increase the probability. But I've just been looking at static stuff, and I did raise it a little bit. I think I'm on 55%. So I'm looking at bets that are over 55% chance of coming in, because that means I'm going to win more than actually lose, and where the valuation is it's over 2%. So the big issue then is, you would ask, how do you work out whether it's a value bet or not, and how do you work out the probability based on the odds of the bookmakers? Doesn't actually, I mean, the odds from the bookmakers gives you a little idea, because if they're basing a horse at 100 to 1, and it's like 1 in 100, so it's like 1% chance of coming in. So if that race ran 100 times, it would win once. But that's not strictly true, because we all know that bookies' odds are sort of weighted. Also, the valuation is the same question. How do you work out the valuation? And again, it's a tricky one. I mean, the simplest way is looking at all the bookies on, say, something like OddsChecker website. And if you've got 19 bookies giving you 5 to 1 on a horse, and one bookie's giving you 6 to 1 on a horse, then you would hopefully consider the 6 to 1. It's certainly better value than all the 5 to 1s, but it still doesn't say it's actually value, because the standard price should be 6 to 1, and all the other bookies have just reduced it to 5 to 1, and there's one bookie's left paying 6 to 1. But the answer to these two questions really is in the software. You do need some software to actually show you a value bet, and even then it's based on the software and how good that interprets what a value bet is. And there's configurations and everything to say, well, check so many bookies to see what the price is, and then see what's value and what isn't. And then the probability as well is obviously going to be based somewhat on the odds, but then you want to be making sure that you are getting a good probability. I mean, I've been putting bets on this week where I've had an 80% chance of winning, but obviously the odds is a bit lower, but then the odds are still perceived to be value odds, so I've been putting bets on them. And I'm not going to go into how well it's doing, because it's only, like I say, just over halfway through the week, and I've done 4 days out of 7. And I will go through, in the next video, I will go through the software and show you exactly how it works, what it's doing, and I'll also show you this full week, 7 days of actually betting, and I'll show you profit or loss, depending on what it is, because the week's not over yet, so I don't know if I'm going to win money or lose money yet. And I'm not going to tell you where we're at the moment, because I'm keeping it up my sleeve until the video comes out. But hopefully this has given you a good insight to value betting, and which means when I do go and do the next video on the software, I don't need to explain all this again. Basically, I will show you bets where there's a overvaluation and also high probability, well, higher than 50% probability of the bet winning. And then I'll also show you the results of all those bets. Okay, hope you found this useful. If you do have any questions on value betting before I release the next video about software, stick them in the comments. And if you have got, if you found it useful as well, also if you'd like to subscribe to the channel, help support it and get me more views and subscribers. And also, if you want to click the notifications bell, it'll tell you when the next video is out, which will be all about the software. Okay, thanks very much for watching. Cheers now. Bye.